So yesterday I rode Milano in a flat lesson on the 18th of December, and we had a look at some different flat and jump saddles beforehand. And after a bit of thought, I thought I'd lunge Milano today just to see how she's going on the flat, and I can see her. I lunged her in a to go. As you can see here, I'm just warming up with a roller and cavesson and snaffle on. Haven't got any gadget on here. This is just to let her warm up. She was very excitable this morning. She wouldn't walk on a 20-metre circle, and she wouldn't trot on a 20-metre circle originally. So here I'm just letting her have her moment. There's no point resisting against her because she just becomes stronger and more excitable. So just letting her get her energy out. Keeping her on a larger circle, at least 20 metres. Making sure I've got 2 loops in my lunge line. Keeping the whip towards her hindquarters but not moving it too much. Just because I want to discourage her from cantering. I want her to trot and just come down to a steadier pace. Here she does come back to trot. She's still rushing a lot, and as you can see, without any gadget on, in a natural rhythm, she chooses to have her head and neck up and her nose right out and forwards. She is also leaning her head and neck to the outside. Here she's slowing down, and she's actually listening to my voice here. She does come back to walk. And she relaxes a little bit more, which is quite nice. Here I've set the camera up at a different angle. Just warming her up still. You can see the same again, her head and neck is to the outside. However, she is relaxing a little bit. You can see here she's coming a bit lower in her frame. And then as you can see, she's still very excitable. But I'm going to work this canter now. If she's got this much energy, we might as well use it. Send her forward. Here the head and neck was coming a little bit lower, which was quite nice. You can see that downwards transition there. She's quite unbalanced. Her quarters swing straight away to the outside, and she just rushes. And here just asking her to walk. Nice bit of lengthening in the neck again there. So she's working a bit more longitudinally over her back. And she's got a nice walk rhythm here. Here I am just attaching the gadget I'm going to use today. So I'm going to use the Go. This is different from other gadgets. So for example, a Chambon clicks onto the bit and you can't ride in a Chambon. However, you can ride in a to go. Here you can see it attaches to the roller almost a bit like a martingale attachment, up and through the headpiece near the pole, through the bit going outside to inside, and then back onto itself on a little D-ring. So this encourages the correct head and neck frame, prevents her from throwing her head too high, but also prevents her head from coming too low. So when I'm fitting this, I'm ensuring her head and neck is in the correct position for the tightness of the to go. She obviously is quite a lot smaller than some of the horses here at Hadlow, so this to go was slightly too big. I ended up experimenting a bit and adding a few knots just to make it a bit shorter and fit better. And actually I'd rather it a little bit looser for today, just because she probably hasn't been lunged in one much before here. So I thought it would be a bit looser and just encourage a nice longer frame for today. As you can see here, so now we've got the to go attached, and it is fairly big for her. So she is just trotting around, still with her head and neck in the air. I had made it a little bit tighter after a few circles on the lunge. So here you can see she is softening slightly. She just would rather keep her head up higher, but we'd like her to work up and over her back and engage with her core a bit more. Here you can see some moments where she is starting to soften. She's she gets very distracted, this mare. I think she's always looking at her surroundings and her environment rather than focusing on work completely. Here you can see she has a little canter outburst. I am asking for her to go into canter, but she just rushes into the canter and becomes quite forward. I thought I'd work the canter, so because she still wasn't quite as soft in her frame as I would like in the trot, I thought I'd work the canter. Then I can actually push her forward a bit more and hopefully encourage her to work in that frame, more correct frame. Here she is working in a better frame here. And then thinking about asking her to trot. This is an alright downwards transition. If I was scoring it on a dressage, I would probably give it a 6. We can do better than a 6, but she was a little bit rushed. I think if I was riding her, I would have prepared a bit more. This is more reliant on my voice. I don't want to be pulling her head and neck around here on the circle. I want to be using my voice, and hopefully she will start to listen to me a little bit more. She did throughout the session today. As she got a little bit more tired, she actually did become a little bit more focused on me. Here was a nice walk transition. So she was listening to my voice more. I think she'd calmed down a little bit. So here I'm just changing the rein. I've actually tightened the to go at this point, and instantly you can see the frame is a bit more where we would like it. She's relaxing a lot more. She's actually pushing more from behind as well after she's had quite a long canter, so I think that's helped her engagement and her impulsion from behind. Helped her cadence as well. She's got a really nice trot, this mare. I think her trot is one of her best paces. And it's actually developed even over these last few weeks. I think she's a lot more relaxed in the trot. That was a nice canter transition. I think with this mare, one of my targets for lunging is to be a lot softer with my voice. I get quite excited when I'm lunging. I want them to move forwards and I want them to come back and listen to me. So I need to make sure I'm specific with my aids, and I'm thinking about what I'm doing, and I go in with a plan. So my plan for today was just to get her going forwards, get her working in this nice outline, and then I thought I would use some poles a little bit later on, just to help with that rhythm again, and just expose her to a little bit more. I think as a 9-year-old, she is quite spooky and hasn't really seen the world as much as she maybe could have over the last 9 years. So just doing lots of different things all the time, keep asking those questions and keep changing what I'm doing. This is a nice trot. It's a little bit rushed, but here I'm working on trot and canter transitions. This is because she does strike off disunited quite often. And actually here she was quite good. She was striking off on the correct lead most of the time. I've just added this little bit into the session. You can see she actually does stretch really far down and out. Just on this circle, there are still moments of resistance. She's not consistent in this frame, but actually this really showed a few moments where she became really soft and really engaged up and over her back. And the trot is lifting up a bit more, I think, than it did before, which was nice. Really, really good few moments of the session there. So now I've changed the camera position and we're going to introduce some of these rustic poles. I did walk over them initially, they are trot poles, but I just wanted her to see them because she's quite spooky. I didn't want her to try and jump them all and it be a negative experience for her. So here I'm asking her to trot on. I'm actually not asking her to go over the poles in this instance. I'm asking her just to ride that smaller circle. And here you can see she has her typical Milano outburst. So this is just her not concentrating as much, a little bit of wind, so she becomes quite spooky. And then we lose all of those scales of training. So we lose the relaxation, we lose the suppleness, we lose the rhythm, and she just becomes quite resistant. Here she's rushing a lot, so I'm just staying really calm with my voice, asking her to come back to a nice rhythmical trot. And this does take some time sometimes. Here she's listening to me a bit more. You can see she's falling out specifically at that bottom left part of the circle there. Here she's rushing again, so actually as she went over the pole, she went into canter, just because she's not listening to me. So maybe on second thought I shouldn't have reapproached then. Here we're having a hoo-ha, so we're having a little buck. But actually we're letting out some of the tension maybe, where she's still got a lot of energy. So actually she might become a bit looser after this. Once again, regaining this control and the consistency. I think it's important to show this bit too, because it doesn't always go perfectly. You can see here she's still cantering, she's not listening to my voice. I think with her, she has got a cavesson on here, but I think she would be better with an overhead check maybe, just so I have a bit more control. So here she's starting to relax again a bit more, that head and neck is coming forwards and out. She's got a much better rhythm in the trot, so I'm thinking about moving my body to reapproach, getting her in the middle of the poles. She stretches over them nicely, she does rush, but that's okay for the first set of poles. We're just going to keep her going over them a couple of times. This is good for my focus as well, to make sure I keep her in the middle every time. And it's good for her rhythm, keeping her forward and exposing her to new things. It's only a really simple 3 poles I'm asking her to go over, not asking her to do a ridiculous question, just asking her to keep consistent in the trot and not spook at the poles. And actually, as you can see, over the poles, her head and neck is quite high, but then straight after the poles she really stretches down and out. So my aim for her was just to stay a little bit softer over the poles and almost stretch into the poles rather than stretch out of the poles. I do this quite a few times. I have to repeat it a lot just to get her to relax over them. She's a bit more consistent on the circle now. She's falling in and out less. She's balancing herself more. She's still rushing over the poles, but we're just going to keep my body language the same and not change anything, because she's going to calm down when she's done it a few more times. Here she's really starting to relax. That was a really nice set of poles there. She kept the rhythm. She's still relaxing after the poles. We just need to get her to stay softer over the poles. A little bit softer there. And asking her to walk here, which she does nicely. Obviously taking her away from the poles at this point. So now we're going to do the trot poles on the left rein. Straight over the trot poles this time, she's seen them the other way. She actually trips over the first pole because she's so relaxed. And although that might be a negative for some people, that was a nice thing to see, that she was so relaxed about the poles that she actually wouldn't pick up her legs as much. Showing that she's really relaxing over these poles, and just a simple exercise just to keep her brain ticking over. This is also ready for the dressage on the 23rd, so in 4 days' time. So I thought we'd mix it up a little bit, include some variation in our exercise. and use some lunging and some poles, especially in the outdoor school. She's quite spooky in the outdoor. And after she's finished and had a nice walk off, I'm just going to walk next to her for a little bit and just give her a nice cool off.